All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. Welcome to the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. Well, we are watching world events. World events are scaring us. What do we do about them? And how did we get here? Some of that has to do with the propagandistic ploys of people who say that they're working in our best interests. And others have, they're just terrorists. And bloodthirsty ones at that, with a lot of money. And where are they getting that money? So weird. Very weird. Well, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld has actually looked at that. She is with the American Center for Democracy. She's written multiple books. Her best-known books are Funding Evil, and her latest is The Soros Agenda. And somehow, someway, those two worlds collide, as only she can tell it. And Dr. Ehrenfeld, thank you so much for coming on the Adult in the Room podcast. Well, you're taking the measure of what's going on in the world, and things appear to be falling apart, not just in America, but in Israel as well. Can you put some context around what Hamas has done to Israel?
Hamas attacked Israeli civilians around 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, October 7th. They penetrated Israel and they have attacked, actually a major attack was on a peace festival, a music peace festival, with many actually people who are very active for peace in the Middle East, for peace with the Palestinians. They showed them how much they want peace. The festival was held in the desert near a kibbutz on the border, and they went into all the homes. They shot everybody inside, including dogs and other animals. They took babies, shot them, and cut their heads off. They raped women of all ages. They decapitated, they butchered them, really, to the extent that actually when bodies were found, eventually they had to put the body parts together, use DNAs in order to see what belongs to whom. This has been the most barbaric attack that has been seen anywhere. It is compared to the Holocaust and even worse. And the magnitude of 1,400 people died that day, Israelis, and some 300 or something were kidnapped, taken as hostages by Hamas. With the information and what was found later, these terrorists were carrying with them instructions. They had maps of where to find everything, which happened because Israel had allowed people from Gaza to come and work in Israel so that so they can earn more money. And instead of being thankful, this was the way they showed their appreciation to what was happening.
So they infiltrated themselves as workers, absolutely. And sounds familiar.
This has been in the making for at least a year. A month before this horrible barbaric event, they trained in Iran by Iranians. They have been funded by Iran to the tune of tens of millions of dollars a year. They have videotaped themselves and released the videos on social media, on real time, boasting about how they butchered the Israelis. And this was used, of course, as propaganda and to incite other people as well, and to show how weak Israel is, how weak Israelis are. And now, of course, they are claiming they are victims. Unlike the Nazis in Germany, who tried, and in Europe, who tried to hide the fact that they were exterminating Jews, these Hamas terrorists were actually boasting about it. And they continue to boast about it, and they continue to shell Israel. They tried to penetrate again several times, but they were prevented from doing that. Their terrorists were killed. Instead of using the money, they have been funded to the tune of billions of dollars over the years by UNRWA, the UN agency that is operating there. They have been actually running the schools that have indoctrinated children the children were actually indoctrinated with their mother's milk, because they are all since 5 years old or something, or 3 years old. They are being trained to act out in plays of how they kill Jews and Israelis and how they kill the infidels. And this was done with billions of dollars over the years from UNRWA, from USAID, and from many European countries and the EU, as well as some the people who supported Hamas and the Palestinians in doing this. And by the way, the Palestinian Authority is supporting Hamas. The Palestinian Authority is also paying for terrorists, and this was from the get-go. From the PLO was actually established in 1964. The first thing that they established as an institution for them was that they will pay martyrs to go and kill the Jews. So this is going on, and the Biden administration keep sending them now $100 million and more, because they are sending in more humanitarian aid to inhumans. And besides, the people who are in Gaza are people who elected the Hamas to be their government. They have been the majority of the people, and they got what they wanted. It's very corrupt. Instead of building up Gaza, instead of looking after the economy, and really the helping the people, they have been indoctrinating them for war, for terrorism, not even war, and for killing more Jews. They took the sewage, whatever structure they had, and used the pipes in order to create rockets. And they have been getting a lot of weapons from Iran. They have been getting a lot of support from Turkey as well, and from Qatar. And now Qatar is supposed to be the mediator.
Qatar's the bag man.
Wonderful. It's like they have been the mediators with Al-Qaeda, with Hamas, with the Taliban, with that. It's a country that supports terrorism. It's a country that supports the killing jihad, the killing of Jews and infidels. This is Qatar.
This is just
this is supposedly our ally.
Right. They're the ones that install all of those institutes on college campuses.
Yes.
They are the ones who bring over Palestinian people to, groups.
There are quite a few American institutions, American foundations that do that. The Rockefeller Brothers Fund, for example, has been supporting them for a long time.
Wow.
Sometimes USAID brings people. speakers over to convey their opinion, portraying them as human rights activists, and so does the Soros Foundation, the Open Society Foundations, that have been directly and indirectly supporting pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-American organizations throughout the world and in the United States, as well as, of course, in Gaza. The money went there, and also the other Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PLFP, other Palestinian terrorist organizations that are designated by the United States as terrorist organizations.
Is there any reason why it occurred now, this attack?
It occurred now because that's Iran wanted. That's what Iran wanted. Iran runs all terrorist organizations in the Middle East that are now, as we speak, are still attacking Americans. There are 14, 16 attacks against Americans now. And Biden says, oh, no, and Blinken says, and the Defense Department says, well, no, we will not let them do that. We will respond. They haven't responded yet.
Yeah, that's crazy. Two dozen U.S. troops. U.S. troops have been hurt by drones.
There are more actually on the way. And the United States, with all the evidence of Iran's involvement, Iran's funding, Iran's training, they still didn't find any. They don't have anything. They could see that involves Iran. Really?
Yeah, that's dumb. How about the last 35 years of experience? So we have Iran's complicity in this. Why is it that the same people who have been endorsing this Iran deal that would give them the nukes and give them cash like none other, why would they have done this to benefit Iran, knowing what it would do to American and Israeli connections?
I guess you should actually ask Mr. Obama. He was the one that actually got a Nobel Prize for Peace because I don't know, even before he had done anything for rapprochement with Iran. Well, I wonder when the world blows up because of Iran's nuclear weapons, will there be anybody in Norway or in Stockholm who would say, oh, actually, yeah, we did well by giving him a Nobel Prize. But it was how did the Iranians got to him? This has been very it's not it has been anti-American. They now have also the restrictions on their ability to develop ballistic missiles, to sell ballistic missiles, to develop nuclear weapons is all. The Biden administration let it expire, and they didn't snap it back at the UN. And last week, so now the situation is even worse, and they have been funding terrorist activities throughout the Middle East. The other Iran is Shia. There are Shia minorities in several Arab countries, but the most of the Arab nations have Sunni majority. And Saudi Arabia, of course, and Iran have a long competition, if you want, on the Arab, on the Muslim world, since Mecca is in Saudi Arabia, but the Shiites, the radicals in Iran, are claiming that they are the leaders of the Muslim world. And so, but because because they have been all of them have been indoctrinated to kill the infidels, everybody who's not like them, and most are ignorant and follow what they are being told in the mosques and by the leaders. So it's a very difficult task although the Abraham Accord showed that many Arab countries wanted really to move away from the Palestinian incitement and move on with the 21st century. So this was really at a time Iran decided that because there were talks that Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accord, if not making outright peace with Israel, but having relations with Israel and acknowledging the existence of Israel, the Jewish state, Iran decided, no, this is the time that they would hit. And I think that what contributed to it a lot is the weakness of the Biden administration and the failure in Afghanistan and the failure in other incidents. So this was a big incentive.
You know, there are people on Capitol Hill who, congressional representatives, the squad, who also cheer on this attack. I think a good thing would be send them to Gaza. I agree. I've asked Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman, just, hey, well, you want peace? Why don't you go over and negotiate peace in Gaza and take all your transgender friends with you? That'll get you far. But
yeah, they will take them and throw them out of the highest floor of any standing building in Gaza.
Are there any buildings left standing in Gaza? I guess so.
I think there are a few, and the problem is not so much the buildings. The problem is really with the tunnels, and they have hundreds of miles of tunnels that they built with money from all these wonderful donors, including the United States. And
this is where our aid money goes. Our aid money goes to build those damn tunnels. And that's one of the hostages said that she was down below earth. There was medicine, food, all sorts of amenities, and air conditioning.
I wouldn't call it amenities. They fed them once a day with some local cheese and some cucumbers. But she lost a lot of weight in those 17 days that she was captive. But she may have been told before they let her go that if she says anything terrible about them, her husband is still hostage, so his husband is going to get it. So whatever she said, I would take it with a grain of salt. Though she was very bruised. She lost a lot of weight, and I can assure you that this was not a picnic.
Right. I assume you've seen the Harvard-Harris poll, came out this week, where we find out, Dr. Ehrenfeld, that 51% of college students or people 18 to 24, and almost half of those 25 to 34 believe that the atrocities and the violence committed against Israel were justified because of the Palestinian.
Well, when you have a UN Secretary General say the same thing, and not everybody at the UN actually, or the US representative at the UN doesn't stand up and said, no, he has to go, then that is not surprising. And also because the condemnation of Hamas by US officials were so. Yeah, Biden said he supports Israel, but now they are actually dragging their feet. And Blinken said, "Oh, completely supports Israel." He gave a few days before this attack. He gave, despite Congress's disapproval, he gave $150 million or something to the Palestinians. So so now they are getting now after they attacked Israel, they are getting 100 million more. And more is on the way. So, but also if you look at the New York Times is the spokes media together with Al Jazeera against Israel and often against the United States. So why this? They don't understand that Israel is really fighting there. And it's like a finger that is trying to stop the water of the breaking dam from flooding everything. If Israel, Israel must win, because if not, as we heard also from the head of the FBI, and DHS is now saying that, well, we have threats now because we don't know who are the illegal migrants that came here. Some, very few were caught, but there are, 8 million of them? Not all of them Muslim, but many are. And we don't know how many cells are there and how would they respond when there is another call from Hamas to act. Because Hamas from Qatar issued a statement before last weekend calling for massive demonstrations, and everybody heeded their call. So if they heeded call to go out to the street and demonstrate, well, it seems like many of them will heed a next call that would call to go and kill Americans.
And it's the slippery slope. We're nearly to the bottom of the slippery slope. People can take a look at this and they can see how their fellow man treated each other during the COVID thing, where, mask shamers, forcible vaccines, lose your job or else, apologize, all of these things. And now this, and now we're expected to say, well, they had it coming because they were not very nice.
Hamas, they blame Israel for oppressing the people in Gaza. Gaza has been ruled since 2006, 2007 by Hamas. They chose them. They elected them. So Israel was not there. Actually, Israel left in 2005, and it left them with cities and villages, towns and villages that were prosperous, beautiful homes, greenhouses, everything. What the first thing that they did, they came in, they destroyed everything. They took all the parts that they can use in order to build their tunnels and more weapons, and didn't do anything in order to improve the life of the Palestinians. There are many businesses that were left for them. What happened with it? Nothing.
They destroyed them, because ultimately it comes down to obviously a battle of good and evil, but it also is a battle over capitalism in a way, I would say.
Well, sure, all the Biden administration is against capitalism. Soros, who has been supporting Biden, he was the biggest supporter of the Democratic Party in the last election, and continue to do that directly through his son that is now running the foundations. Has been supporting every Democrat candidate for anything. And he spent a lot of money trying to get his agenda fulfilled. And the agenda was that the United States will stop being the superpower in the world, and that the United States doesn't need borders. Nobody needs borders. Sovereignty is out of the window because that's an anachronistic idea.
Sovereignty is just last generation.
Yeah, and so there should be an international government that I guess Soros and his friends and Obama will decide to appoint. And this has been going on for decades. And I wrote when I was watching Soros' activities early on, when he started his foundations here in New York, when he established it in 1993. And I said the first thing that he did was to, his first effort and investments were to legalize drugs. And I asked, well, how come that someone who advocates supposedly for free society, open society, I'm sorry, not free, open society, I guess open for invasion, open for takeover, I don't know. But anyway, open society is also advocating the biggest slavery ever, because drug addiction is the biggest slavery. And I warned that, well, if I noted that unchallenged, he will be able to change the political landscape of the United States. I didn't have a crystal ball, but I understood immediately what he was up to. And so drug legalization was part of his program of the first kick out, if you want, or kickoff of the justice programs, many justice programs that he has been supporting, like the rogue prosecutors, right, the rogue DAs. But he has many other justice programs. So the second one was open borders, because this is unjust not to let people from all over the world to come to the United States, right? And it went on and on. So every racial justice, gender justice, environmental justice, you name it, Soros is supporting it. And he has been spending billions of dollars on indoctrinating young people here and elsewhere to these ideas.
And look at that. The proof is in the pudding right there in that Harvard-Harris poll. I mean, not that we didn't
and the proof is in the pudding in my book. I mean, I have chapters that are detailing especially in what he has done here in the United States. And there is a special chapter about his crusade against Israel.
He's Jewish, and everybody says, well, he's Jewish.
He was born Jewish. He says that he's agnostic.
No, I believe it. I think he, if anything, what do we call people self-loathing Jews?
Self-hating Jew. But he grew up in a home that had nothing to do with Judaism. He said that his mother was anti-Semitic. And he actually doesn't think that Israel, needs to be a Jewish state.
Because it requires borders, and people have nationalistic pride, and all the things that he abhors.
It's a Jewish state. It's the only Jewish state in the world.
Sure.
And he doesn't think that there should be such a state. And he considered this tribal, whatever, and his son says the same thing. And they've been funding even Israeli radical left and Arab organizations in Israel, not only in the Palestinian territories and in Gaza, that are virulently anti-Israel. So he has been supporting international organizations that actually have been defaming Israel with blood libels, lying for years. There was one incident when the UN actually had to apologize, but that was really an exception. So don't accept them to apologize. Like the Secretary General of the UN now said, well, no, he supported Hamas in what he said yesterday, but he was misquoted. Really?
Right.
We hear it a lot, right?
George Soros, as you've noted in your book, The Soros Agenda, he has gone after the very foundations of American society in terms of destroying family units in ways, by way of drug addictions, by way of, he says he doesn't like tribalism. He has helped establish virtual tribalism in the United States, balkanization, if you will, by family against family.
Supporting abortion, too.
Supporting abortion.
Until birth and apparently a few minutes later.
Yeah, it's just, And he also started it with assisted suicide. This was one of the whole idea that you should be able to just kill yourselves. Abortion, killing yourself.
No. And it's not you kill yourself. We will help you.
We'll help you. Yeah, and we are nothing but we're friendly.
It's murder. Any way you look at it, it's murder.
That's true. That is true. So, and the justice system has been torn asunder primarily because of his efforts. I would say that, of course, you mentioned the fact that the criminal justice system has been taken over by Soros DAs in key places throughout the United States. These are places that are currently bringing lawsuits against President Trump.
There are many more, actually.
Oh, yeah. Then there's the Attorney General. There was the Attorney General project that also they would rewrite the laws, and the Secretary of State project, where they would rewrite the laws of elections.
Absolutely. And anybody running for any elected position in states, doesn't matter whether it's a red state or blue states, anybody is running who is willing to parrot the Soros agenda, the Soros ideology, the radical left, the woke agenda, can get is helped by them, by the foundations.
And he funds all these groups that claim they're Jews for Palestine and that sort of thing.
Well, they are not actually. It was established by very radical Marxist Jews who deny Israel's right to exist. But then it was taken over, and it's actually run by pro-Palestinians, not Palestinians. So there is deception in everything they do. Deception throughout. What they do, what Hamas is doing, the information they are giving out, that's what really characterizes them. Lying. Even the name of the foundation, Open Society, actually preaching to close society, to oppress society, not open. So everything, it's an Orwellian, using Orwellian language very successfully, I may say. New York Times and the AP telling reporters now, you cannot use terrorism, you cannot say Muslim terrorism, you cannot say Hamas terrorism. Yeah, they are terrorists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. Because they're bringing terror to people. Do you think, by any chance, I just sort of spitballing today and thinking about some of the things you've said about no borders and about how he wants to decriminalize drugs and make them wholly legal and that sort of thing. Do you think that there's something about him, connection at all with the fentanyl problem in the United States coming over the southern border?
I don't think there is. I think it's a Chinese-Mexican operation, but he, because of his pro-drug legalization propaganda, heavy propaganda for the last, 30 years or 40 years, the readiness to, okay, so taking drugs is not a big thing. So let's say, taking drugs. It's not only marijuana. You start taking that, they actually put other drugs in the marijuana that you buy. And then it's really, people are addicted to other drugs. And also, so fentanyl is only part of it, but it's the readiness, changing the values, changing the outlook of people. When everybody's saying, well, it's okay to do it, fine. Not only that, they actually provide, they call it harm reduction clinics, harm reduction, increasing the harm by giving them drug paraphernalia and encouraging them to take drugs. More people to take drugs. This is outrageous. I don't know why the American public and American politicians were not actually understanding this. I understand the new Speaker of the House that was chosen today from Louisiana, Mr. Johnson. I think, he understands that drug legalization is bad for America. And I think that he will be able to lead Congress to prevent the classification of marijuana, because the Biden administration actually now wants to fulfill, I guess, Soros's wishes. He was 93-year-old in July. So, in August, I'm sorry. So they want to remove marijuana from the dangerous drugs list and change it to something like, Tylenol. I hope that the new speaker will prevent it from happening.
Is there any hope?
It depends really. It depends what laws Biden will sign and not sign. Or not sign, and it depends on how the Republicans can actually get together and throw this administration out, because all that we have gotten is restrictions, huge inflation, crime all over, chaos everywhere. And that's actually 8 million illegal migrants thus far. Most of them we don't know who they are. We have to pay for their keep. and be very careful when we walk on the streets.
Yeah.
And this
then we can't use guns.
And he's very proud of his work. Wonderful. We are not.
And this apparent proxy war going on in Israel right now. Obviously, Iran's involved, and Joe Biden is telling Bibi Netanyahu to sort of, hey, hold on, you can't do anything. And by the way, if you want ammo, we're going to have to find it because we gave it all to Ukraine.
Well, they are kind of, I hope they are sending more weapons to Israel. But because Israel cannot sustain it, they have now war on 4 or 5 fronts, from Gaza, from Syria, from Lebanon, from Yemen, with the Houthis, and also from the sea, with Hamas coming also from the sea. So this is a very dangerous. Israelis always knew that they live in a dangerous neighborhood. For some reason, intelligence, there was a huge screw up, but it was also American screw up because American intelligence is supposedly monitoring and listening to everything. Well, if they didn't listen, it's a screw up. If they listened and they didn't provide information to the Israelis, well, that's even worse.
I think they were too busy going after American citizens with their newfound.
They can chew gum and follow everybody too.
Yeah, Dr. Ehrenfeld, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld is the author. Her latest book of the Soros Agenda and Funding Evil. It's probably a good time to go back and revisit that book as well. I have that on my bookshelf.
Yeah, it has been written a long time ago, but relatively, but the same operatives are still the same terrorists, and more or less there are some technological improvement of how to transfer money, but it is still going on.
Well, prayers to Israel, and I don't know what else. Get a gun and get some emergency food. You may have to use it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. To keep the programs you like to listen to, please rate this podcast with a fantastic 5 stars on your Apple Podcast app every time you listen. And give me a great review. Plus, of course, subscribe to the podcast. It makes a difference with the big tech algorithm and the big tech oligarchs, and it makes us easier to find. Please get in touch with me on all the big tech stuff. Yeah, we're still there. Using the names Victoria Taft or the Adult in the Room podcast on MeWe, Parler, Minds, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks to 1ACast for imaging, editing, and production. The fantastic song is Gospel by the March 4th Band of Portland, Oregon. Music for Antifa versus Mike Strickland is Ride or Die by Raps by RC. The Adult in the Room podcast is also a production of Flamingo Road Studios. Remember, head up, heart out, and strive to be the adult in the room. Till next time, mischief managed.